3 years ago, we inherited this ancient woodland from my late grandfather.
But it wasn't until this year that we committed ourselves fully to restoring this rare and beautiful ecosystem, and started this YouTube channel so that we could bring you guys along for the journey.
Now that 2025 is nearly at an end, here's everything we accomplished this year at the Wellstead. Let's start with all the progress we made in our farm this year. We started out the year by marking out the boundaries of the farm with posts, and designed the layout for the beds and growing plots. We still haven't finished the fence, but that's largely because we've been debating how we want to build that. Now, we're not building a conventional agricultural garden here. Instead, we want this area to blend seamlessly into the surrounding landscape and ecology, and provide a haven for pollinators and other wildlife through following the principles of permaculture and regenerative farming methods. That means we've landed on the idea of building a natural fence using organic materials, which will keep browsers and pests like deer and badgers out, while encouraging beneficial insects and pollinators to move in and play a role in the ecology of the farm.
That's something I'll be getting around to building very soon before spring, so keep an eye out on the channel for a video about that process.
In early spring of this year, we cleared a 6 metre by 3 metre rectangle in the centre of the farm, and erected our polytunnel. And it's still here! This is our first structure on the land, and although it's only temporary, it represents a big step forward in our journey, and makes it possible for us to prioritise our work from one central area.
And shortly after we put this up, I built this DIY workbench slash potting table out of scrap wood left on the land, and surprisingly, it's still standing today.
For now, the polytunnel is serving as both a shed and a greenhouse. But moving forward, we'd like to use it to grow an abundance of different foods, and perhaps provide a place to germinate trees for planting around the woodland as part of our restoration efforts. Shortly after we erected the greenhouse, we sowed our first vegetable seeds, and by the end of summer had our first harvest. A mix of tomatoes, cavolo nero, bell peppers, sweet potato, and even almonds were just some of the foods we learned how to grow this year.
Outside, we did manage to plant some broad beans and potatoes, but everything else we planted, including our strawberries, unfortunately died, either due to drought or some other reason. In early summer, we also got our hands on this simple wooden crate from a nearby hardware store that was closing down, and we decided to repurpose it into a simple compost bin. And to be honest, we've been able to make some pretty decent compost using this, but it's a good start at becoming more self-sufficient. I also tried my hand at building a water capturing system with some scrap materials and an old water butt. I think my method was a bit flawed, and I never finished the project anyway, but to be honest, I'm not sure if this is something we really need in the farm. We'll have to see. We've still got lots to learn about polyculture gardening and companion planting, and we do need to get rid of those pesky slugs, but I think we have a clearer vision of what we want this food forest to look like, and we're well on the way to making that vision a reality. So while we didn't make quite as much progress as we would have liked to this year on the farm, we did learn a valuable lesson, that things take time. A lot of time.
And you can't rush Mother Nature. This year we also explored the rest of the woodland. While we knew the general layout of the land before, there were areas that we still weren't sure of until this year. So once winter was over, we strapped on our boots and clambered our way through the undergrowth to areas we had never seen before. For one, we explored around different water bodies on the land, including 2 overflow ponds and 1 natural lake. This lake is surrounded by invasive trees and is extremely difficult to access, but it's something I'd like to focus on opening up next year, so that we can assess the ecological state of the lake, and perhaps even open it up for our own private swimming hole. Now, we had heard a rumour that there was an abandoned military bunker buried somewhere on the land, but had never been able to locate it. I mean, how hard can it be to find an entire concrete bunker on only 9 acres of land, you may ask? Well, turns out quite hard when that bunker is surrounded by invasive bamboo and cherry laurel. Nevertheless, we found the bunker and even had a peek inside, and it ain't pretty. Still, now we know where it is, and we can ensure that it's sealed up for our own health and safety and protected from vandalism. Additionally, we also found 2 collapsed structures buried deep in rhododendron ridge. We believe these were storage huts that my granddad used to store logs and equipment once upon a time. However, they have since collapsed and we believe they may be made of asbestos. So we have left them for now and will tackle them at a later date. Still, good to know they're there. Speaking of rhododendrons and cherry laurel, we've made massive progress in tackling their invasion this year. When we inherited this land and started doing general maintenance, we weren't fully aware of the invasive nature of these trees. But over the past 3 years, they have spread even further into the heart of the woodland, and it has become essential that we get on top of the invasion just in time, and now we've managed to push their front lines back to the southern hill. Just look at the difference here. This was once an area of rhododendrons earlier this year,
And this is that same area today. Just look how much more light is hitting the forest floor and how much more accessible this whole area of the woodland has become.
They're still spreading and some stems are regrowing where we have already cleared, but now it's just a matter of keeping on top of them. And the more we remove, the easier it will be and the more resilient this woodland will become. Likewise, we've been tackling the cherry laurel slowly too. However, this hasn't been a main priority for several reasons. One, laurel doesn't spread nearly as quickly as rhododendron, so it's not essential that we get on top of it right away. And two, we foolishly weren't aware that burning cherry laurel releases poisonous cyanide gas, and we were doing a lot of burning last year. So now we're waiting for the trees that have been cut down to dry before we can burn them, meaning we've slowed down our removal of those trees for now. The good news is, again, we've opened up a lot of space and have been able to access other areas that were previously hidden, like those asbestos sheds that I mentioned.
Talking about accessibility, we made some pretty useful improvements to the land this year, starting with my staircase, which isn't actually finished yet.
But while this may look simple, this has actually reconnected two areas of the woodland that were otherwise quite separated before. We have old growth grove up here on the hill, and down here in Douglas Downs we have several clearings. Before this staircase, the only real way to travel between these two areas was up through Badger Valley, which was not only a long trek, especially with tools and a wheelbarrow, but also risky due to all the badger sets and fox burrows down there. Now this staircase bypasses that and means we can travel straight from the farm and our main driveway up this steep ridge with ease.
It mightn't seem like much, but sometimes the smallest changes can make the biggest difference.
As for other small changes, we've continued chipping away at the rubbish and litter on the land, clearing the space up to give a chance for nature to return and thrive. For many decades, this woodland was a working forest, which has left its scar on the landscape. But now we're doing what we can to reverse some of that damage and create a safer environment for ourselves and for the wildlife here.
Speaking of wildlife, we really got to see a closer look at nature this year.
As we've been working on the land more frequently, the wildlife in the woodland has almost started to become more comfortable with our presence here.
And I've spotted some incredible critters this year.
Back in spring, I saw a pack of about 6 fox cubs bouncing through the bluebells in the sunshine. And only a few weeks later, baby fawns frolicking around Old Growth Grove. There's been no shortage of roe deer and stags to see, but they never fail to amaze me. Whenever I see a deer, I'm always mesmerised by its elegance and beauty. But perhaps the coolest animal I've seen this year is our beloved buzzard. I first spotted this stunning raptor last autumn, flying overhead above the farm. In early summer this year, I found one of its feathers lying on the ground. At first I didn't know what it was, and even thought it might have belonged to an American bald eagle that I know lives at a falconry about 20 miles from here. That was a bit optimistic, and upon later inspection I discovered it was the tail feather of a buzzard, and only a week later I found 2 more in the same spot. I used these to craft a little handmade dream catcher to honour the beauty of this elusive and predatory bird. But just a few weeks ago I was lucky enough to finally spot the buzzard fly overhead and land in the top of one of our Douglas firs briefly, before swooping off again.
And believe it or not, just as I'm filming this today, a massive red kite has just flown overhead and I managed to catch it in that Douglas fir all the way on the other end of the woodland. Take a look at this.
However, as with everything in nature, for every light there must be a shadow. So while we were blessed with these beautiful animal encounters this year, we were also faced with the harsh reality of being new landowners and had to say goodbye to a few of our forest friends. In midsummer, I came down here one day with my girlfriend to get some simple gardening work done and perhaps shoot a video. But when we arrived in the polytunnel, we heard cries just outside. At first I was shocked and I thought it might have been a bird perched in a tree just outside. But when it carried on, we went out to check and found an injured fawn lying just on the edge of the farm. We called around to various wildlife rescue teams, but no one could help us, so we wrapped the fawn up in a blanket and rushed it to the nearest vet. However, it was too late, and by the time we got there, it had passed away in the blanket. The vet couldn't identify why it had fallen ill or how it had been injured, but they reassured us that we did the right thing, though nothing could be done to save the deer. And we faced many other challenges this year too. Just a few weeks ago, we received a call from our neighbour that some trees had blown over in a storm and blocked off the public road that runs alongside our woodland. A great big horse chestnut tree had snapped in the wind, bringing down 2 smaller beech trees with it and falling onto a telephone wire as well. This was a situation we weren't quite ready to deal with, and it was only made worse by the fact that our only chainsaw was in for repairs at that point. But it taught us that the unpredictable can and will happen, and that we need to be prepared for whatever may happen. Nevertheless, we hope that with the right approach we might be able to prevent accidents like this from happening again in the future by restoring the understory of the woodland, creating a stronger buffer against strong winds and reinforcing the soil in areas where soil erosion might be a problem. But that is all just part of our ongoing management plan.
But most importantly, the biggest leap forward we made this year was starting this YouTube channel.
It's an idea I've been toying with for a while, but in the end, with the support of my cousin Guy, who helps a lot behind the scenes with the channel, he convinced me to just dive headfirst into it, and what a journey it has been. Creating these videos has given me the opportunity to learn so much and spread that joy of learning with others.
At the start of this year, I could barely tell a beech tree from an oak. But thanks to this channel, I've been able to learn so much about the natural world.
From identifying tree species and bird calls, to wild foraging and outdoor skills, and I even learned how to restore and hang my own axes, which I did twice, as well as proper techniques for felling trees and splitting wood.
Oh shit, you're right.
My cousin Guy and I went and bought our first axes each as well, and started laying the foundations for a second YouTube channel, which we will talk more about soon. Now I'm even on my way to becoming an ecologist, and it's been such a privilege to share this with all of you so far.
The support that we've received on this channel this year has been nothing short of inspiring, and I'm so grateful for the community that we've been able to build so far. Thanks to your support, we've already raised £100 to help plant trees in these degraded areas of woodland, and we are both proud and honoured for you to be a part of this amazing journey of restoring this ancient woodland.
This year we got our hands dirty, but we've also been busy behind the scenes learning, planning, building a network and reaching out to others for help and advice. We came up with some great ideas, compromised on some dreams, and now, as 2025 comes to a close, we have a clearer vision than ever before of what the Wellstead is and what it can mean to the world. So there we have it. On the surface, not a whole lot has changed, but we've been busy learning about ecology, woodland management, permaculture and nature conservation. But perhaps more importantly, reconnecting to our roots. Building a closer relationship with the natural world around us and reconnecting with my late granddad through this land and his legacy.
But this is only the beginning. We've got loads planned for next year, starting with planting hundreds of trees thanks to the kind donations we've received so far on our fundraiser.
And beyond that, we can't wait to see where this journey will take us.
And we're excited to bring you along for the journey. From all of us here at the Wellstead, thank you for an incredible first year and all the generous support you have shown us so far. We couldn't have asked for a better start to this lifelong project, and we will see you next year.